And we're talking about Sam Fuller. And his film that we're talking about first will be The Naked Kiss from 1964. To recap, Kelly, played by Constance Towers, is a prostitute who winds up in the small town of Grenville after heading out of the big city after beating down her former pimp who wasn't paying her cut. She hawks her champagne wares in the park to the local police chief Griff, played by Anthony Isley, who buys a bottle of that sweet champagne. And of course, they hook up, have sex. And instead of cozying up with Griff and allowing to operate, Griff kind of tells her, nah, you're going to have to peddle your wares across state lines over the river. But instead of doing that, she just leaves the lifestyle and winds up becoming a nurse at a hospital for handicapped children owned by the local millionaire, J.L. Grant, played by Michael Dante. Griff comes calling to the nearby cat house he told Kelly to work at for his perusal, but she never showed up. Eventually, one thing leads to another, and Kelly falls under the attraction of the millionaire, Mr. Grant, Grantville. See, he runs the town. At this time, he's unaware of her background. And of course, Griff is best buddies with Mr. Grant. Melodrama ensues. We get a musical number involving a dozen handicapped children dressed as pirates and Kelly playing the Mary Poppins. It's a real showstopper. A roommate of Kelly's is on the edge of getting drawn into the local Bon Bon Club, which is just the cat house. And Kelly ain't having this shit, and she goes and beats the crap out of the madam of the Bon Bon house. Kelly is just making friends all over the place, one bludgeoning instrument at a time. It comes out that Kelly and Grant are going to get married, and Griff confronts Kelly that she better get the fuck out of town or he's going to tell Grant what the score is. Of course, by this point, Kelly has told Grant everything, and Griff looks like a bum, and he caves and agrees to be the best man in their wedding. Things are looking to pan out just swell for everyone, but then the other shoe drops, and it turns out town millionaire J.L. Grant is a child rapist. Kelly walks in on one of these things about to go down, and Kelly does what Kelly does best and beats old Grant, this time to death. The little girl Grant was going after runs out, so Kelly has no witness to what was going on, so it just looks like she's killed the local benevolent millionaire who owns and runs the handicap school or hospital. And so she goes to jail awaiting trial. Her prostitute past comes out, and the police chief Griff, he gets to go, he gets to embrace his hatred for prostitution and women, it seems. And now he's also killed his best buddy. And he just couldn't believe that a man who saved him in Korea would be a child molester. And of course, all the people she's wronged up to this point, her pimp, the local madam, spineless people, none of them are really helping her case. As things are at their darkest, Kelly catches sight of the little girl from the mansion out her jailhouse window, and she's brought in, and one thing leads to another, and Kelly is exonerated, and we all rejoice, and Kelly hits the road, and I'm still waiting for my Naked Kiss weekly serial of Kelly going town to town, saving people and beating people up. So RJ, what did you think of The Naked Kiss?
It's a fucking liar movie. Doesn't have a single naked kiss throughout the entire thing.
Oh.
How's that for a review?
Whoa. Put that on Letterboxd, buddy.
I think this movie's all right. I don't really know. I think it's maybe the resentment that you were talking about earlier settling in, because I feel like this movie is usually something I gravitate towards. It's right up my alley. I like film noirs. I like prosties. I like the toots, as I call them downtown. I don't know. Like I like parts of this movie. I just wasn't overall like super impressed by it. And it's not like it's bad or anything. I don't know. It didn't really hit me that much. Like I feel like I have like a soft spot for like romanticism in like certain situations, and like the way this movie plays out, I feel like that's the kind of stuff I usually like, but I felt like in this one it was a little disingenuine. Like it wasn't earned. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I feel like everyone's really mean to this lady because she used to be a hooker, and I don't think that's nice. I mean,
it's not like, nice.
I know, but it's like, yeah, she's like cleaned her life up, and everyone still just like yells at her for being a hooker. And I was like, oh man, that sucks, lady. I'd be right there with you. Hey Jarrett, you know what I really like?
What?
I sincerely wish that every movie had like a scene where there's a bunch of crippled little kids singing to the camera, and it just shuffles between like close-ups of them. And I'm not even kidding. I would fucking love
And
that.
it's like licking their lips awkwardly and
Yeah.
like talking with their like singing with their lower jaw and extending down.
Down. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. It reminded me of Ryan Gosling's band, Dead Man's Bones. It's like because they have like a kids orchestra in there. That's pretty cool. What's some stuff I liked about this movie, Jared?
Talk about what you liked.
The opening is pretty fucking crazy.
Yes.
When you just get a bald lady beating the shit out of some dude, and
Yeah.
then like the credits drop right on front. I
Oh.
thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, the opening scene of that movie is like super fantastic. And then then her like drop the wig coming down and then like her adjusting the wig and the titles come blazing across her face. It's like so nice. And then like I think one of the things I posted on Instagram was I found like the Japanese movie poster for this movie, and it's like that scene, and it's like 3 frames of her before she's put the wig on, and then her putting the wig on with the title across it in this like really great looking font, and then with it on her head on the bottom frame. It's so good. It's like good old fashioned Japanese graphic design, just miles above anything in North America at the time.
Would you prefer that to the Dan Klaus cover?
They're so different. Like there's I mean maybe. I mean,
Maybe?
Well, I don't know. Do you want to talk about the Daniel Klaus packaging? Because I mean,
No,
okay. Because like, I mean, I'm a huge Daniel Klaus fan. I own like every issue of 8 Ball and everything he's done, and I'm so excited that he actually did a Criterion packaging. I mean, unfortunately, all I have so far at this point is the Naked Kiss. I had the old Shock Corridor DVD, which we'll talk about. So yeah, it's just like the packaging of it. I just when I pull out that booklet that comes with the Naked Kiss, it's such a nice little object, and his use of colors are like so like unexpected, like these like yellows and pinks and blues and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like his cover's good in its own way. But yeah,
I thought it was cool when when you lent it to me. I was like, "Ooh, cool, Dan Klaus."
So pretty.
Hey Jarrett, do you ever go around assisting random babies on the street? And if so, are you always or only sometimes arrested by doing so?
That sounds well. I'm no J.L. Grant, that's for sure. If that's what you're trying to get to.
I wasn't even doing that, but you know, the lady, it starts out, the start and end of this movie is her like helping out a little baby, and in the start she like gives the baby a bottle, and I was like, where'd you get that bottle from? Maybe it was in the crib, maybe it wasn't, but if it was in the crib, maybe she's overstepping her bounds giving that baby a bottle
or carriage, crib.
Oh yeah, and the stroller.
Yeah, stroller.
Carriage.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I thought that was weird.
Hey, did you laugh when you saw that big banner on this main street fashion show for handicapped children?
Oh my God. Why would I laugh at that, Jarrett?
Why indeed?
You monster. I did laugh in the credits when it showed a list of names, and the top list names, the first 3 were Mac, Buff, and Dusty. I thought that was really fucking funny.
Did you know where that the whole champagne saleswoman thing was going as they were laying it down?
I actually didn't, but
you didn't pick up on that innuendo that was being laid down.
Oh, actually, yeah, I was like, like the guy's like, I could put the cork in the bottle, and she's like,
keep an eye on my trunk.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, good Lord, a little heavy-handed here, but I mean, it's different when they're awake when you get them.
It's true. The other thing that this film reminded me of is how much I love hand-painted signs. They're so nice.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, back when people were trained how to do that stuff properly.
You know what I love? I love getting close to my significant other with scenes of Venice playing in the background and having rose petals fall from the ceiling.
That is like one of my top 3 experiences.
For like the regular week.
Yeah.
Yep. So I thought that scene was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I also was going to say, do you think this lady looks like Gillian Anderson?
Constance Towers?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I find really amazing with her is this actress. She really looks different depending on when they shot. Like, I don't know. This probably has a lot more to do with the production values of the movie, which, because I mean, these movies are both like fairly done on the cheap side, and I suspect that that shifting look just came down to the fact that they probably didn't have the best makeup people, and so the show Constance Towers looks really different a lot of the time. Actually, one fun fact is Constance Towers, she was born in Whitefish, Montana, which is a mere few hours from Creepsville here.
Yeah, I do a lot of drunken buffoonery in Whitefish, Montana.
Yes.
All Canadians do, actually. We're a big part of the tourism down there. One time I was there, and a lady walked by and she said "fucking Canadians" really loud because of the activities we're getting into, and that's a story for another day. But it was pretty funny.
Garbage people.
Yeah. Well, me. Well, it wasn't just. It was the other people. But I'll tell you about it sometime.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Episode 300. We'll discuss it.
Were you a fan of Hat Rack?
I guess. I guess maybe.
I guess I thought that line was like, whoa.
Hat Rack.
Yeah, all the men want to hang their fedora off her. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Everyone's really mean to this prostitute lady.
Well, they're mean to all the ladies because there's
that's true.
Yeah. It was the time. American small town hypocrisy, RJ.
Yeah, I guess. You know what scene I thought was really weird? When she's telling the story to all the disabled kids, and they're like all dreaming and they're running around, and then it goes back to reality and they're all just like screaming at her, and it like just ends really abruptly. That scene's really weird, man. It's spooky. You can put that in your Spooktober.
When I get one.
When you get one.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's a really bad strategy for interrogating a crying little kid?
What?
Getting a hysterical woman to yell at her and ask her a bunch of questions.
Aggressively?
Yeah. What did you see? It's like, I have to question the cop's integrity in moments like that. And his ability to be a detective, even, where it's like, I could question this little girl myself, but I'm going to let this lady who's like pretty stressed out, I'm going to let her do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was a quote I really liked, Jarrett, in this movie?
What?
Near the end, the lady says, "A naked kiss, the sign of a pervert." And I feel like we need a tagline like that for the show.
We do.
Something about perverts and naked kisses, and
yeah.
So I guess there was a naked kiss in this movie,
I was
but not a
not
literal one.
Yeah, it's an expression, as it turns out.
Yeah, well, I wanted I expected it to be a big buff dude naked kissing people.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's not much of a shock corridor in the next movie either.
There's a shock though, and there is a corridor.
Yeah, there's a hallway.
There's one of each, just not together.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess we talk a little bit about Sam Fuller. Have you ever seen any Sam Fuller movies before?
Nope. These were the first two.
Okay. I think they're a pretty decent example of kind of the sort of subject matter and approach that he makes with his movies. I'll just read the selection. This is from one of the essays that's included with, I think, Naked Corridor. That's a new movie.
Ooh,
It's dirty. So, Fuller, by sheer force of style, energy, and storytelling ability, directed 17 films, all low budget, in Hollywood between 1949 and 1965. Before that, he had been a crime reporter, novelist, infantryman, and screenwriter. Fuller made memorable westerns, such as 40 Guns, Run of the Arrow, noted for their modern psychology and thorny thematics. Fuller sees racism and sexism throughout history as both a driving force and the greatest flaw in American society. His war pictures, Steel Helmet, Fixed Bayonets, Merrill's Marauders, and Crime Stories, Underworld USA, Pick Up on South Street, are energized by the raw intensity of his characters and his clear-eyed repertorial perspective. His one newspaper movie, Park Row, is exhilarating fun and breathes Fuller's authentic knowledge of the trade. He sees war in low-budget dramatic terms as the emotional tension that inevitably explodes among small groups of people forced together in claustrophobic, inhuman situations. In war, men become animals, says Fuller.
So his whole deal is that he was all about getting naked and kissing people.
One might say that.
I'm going to start telling people that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of so like what didn't you really like about the movie, I guess, if you ran through the things that you liked.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like I said, like I think it's a pretty good movie, and to be honest, it's the kind of movie I usually like a lot. Like I
What
do
kind of
like
movie is that?
like New Wars and tales of strangers and trying to get out there and do things and prostitutes.
Hmm.
I don't know. There wasn't anything that really like clicked for me in this movie in a sense that like made me like really like it. Like I enjoyed watching it the whole time, but it's going to be a long time before, if I ever go back to it. I thought the ending was too cheery. I thought she got off light,
Yeah.
even though the whole time she gets dumped on. I mean, if they showed her like they should have utilized shaving her head and not just for one scene, filmed her getting like electrocuted at the end with the shaved head. That would have been fucking crazy. Maybe in Rob Zombie's Naked Kiss, he'll do that. No, I don't know, man. It's like I think, like I said, I like romanticism in certain movies, but what they did in this one, I kind of thought was like, I don't know, it didn't feel earned. I don't know how to describe what I'm talking about either. So don't ask any questions about my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, because like I don't know if romanticism isn't a word that I think of when I think of this movie.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely melodrama.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the idea of like what I meant by that was it's the idea of this lady who like has a hard upbringing and then she meets this guy and like it's all going good and like that's like a romantic quality, but then it turns bad and then she's got to like fight her way out. I don't know. I don't see that's like I don't know how to talk about this movie, and I guess that's the end of the podcast forever. But like I liked it. I wasn't like super impressed by it. That's all.
yeah, I mean, okay, for me, I watched this movie for the first time like I guess like 3 or so years ago. And it's always like been on my radar. Like the old Criterion DVD had a really good, like lurid, like pulpy cover,
Yeah.
and so it had this like great sounding premise. But back when I didn't have a job, I couldn't buy it because I had actually bought Shock Horror way back when, and then Naked Kiss was always on the radar. And I've watched actually quite a few Samuel Fuller movies. Actually, the ones I was mentioning, I've seen a ton of them. And like I usually like his movies just fine. Like they're entertaining. They're always like all right, but there's always something like kind of missing for me, like as far as like the stories go. And with this movie, there's these really great scenes that are like, whoa, that's really good. But then there's like this stuff in between that kind of just goes on, and it just feels like here's the perfunctory stuff to get to the next really good moment. Like I think the movie really takes a good creepy or creeps turn once like the jail Grant being a pedophile thing gets revealed, and it's like that's kind of like shocking for 1964 like in the movie because you're not really led to believe that's happening at all. Like there's no setup, but then there's like this like added ramifications like, oh, he also runs a hospital for like handicapped children, and he's like the town's like named after him, and it's like there's no one that's going to be able to stop this man. And she just kills him dead, which I think I mean people fantasize about doing that when they hear about stories about like child molesters and stuff like that. Like they're on Facebook, on social media, just talking about how much they'd love to, like, I don't know, eye for an eye, and like creep catchers. Hey, there you go, the creep catchers are afoot looking for jail Grant, and he's getting away because it's like it's what's the thing, it's always it's the mayor's son. The mayor's son is actually doing all this, and they're framing homeless people, saying he's the one who's done it all, but the children continue getting hurt. That
just
whole
like in
thing,
Sin City.
just like Sin City.
Yeah.
That yellow bastard.
No, I agree with you. Like I did like the turn there, and I thought the scene right after was actually really well done. Where like after she like whacks him, and then it just like it stills of like his house with the music playing. I thought that was really cool. I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, and like I mean, I think I actually really like that the sing along, the musical bit, the interlude with the kids. I think that scene is so weird.
Well, that's what I was saying. I actually really like that.
Yeah, no, it's strange because like I didn't remember that scene at all from like from watching it the first time. It kind of didn't stick with me. I mostly just remembered like What did I remember? I honestly don't know if I remembered much of it, which is maybe kind of speaks to how I feel pretty much the same as you do about this movie.
Yeah.
It's fine, it's good, but I don't think it has like the certain qualities that I look for in my neo noirs that I have seen in other movies.
You prefer more prostitutes?
Yeah, I guess I prefer more grittiness, I guess, because this movie's like for the most part not terribly gritty. The subject matter is definitely on the sleazy side, but there's something just not there for me, and it sounds like it wasn't there for you either.
Nope.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that's fair to say. I mean, I think it's good, but nothing I would go out of my way to like. If you're wanting to watch like Sam Fuller movies, it wouldn't be on the top of my list. But,
no, me neither.
Yeah, but you know what? After the break, we're going to find out if this next movie might make that list. And we're finishing up talking about Shock Corridor, directed by Sam Fuller from 1963. So journalist Johnny Barrett, played by Peter Breck, wants a Pulitzer Prize, don't we all? And thinks the fast track to the Pulitzer Gold is to go undercover at a mental hospital and find out who murdered an inmate there. He gets two psychiatrists to coach him into appearing insane. Insanity in the form of having incestuous impulses toward his quote-unquote sister, who is impersonated by his exotic dancer girlfriend, also played by Constance Towers. His ruse is successful, otherwise there'd be no movie, and he is in the hospital now for his investigation to ensue, which means navigating madness and the ever-watching authorities of the institution. The question needing asked is, who killed Sloane in the kitchen? He has three witnesses he needs to get to, who are stand-ins for American fear of the time: racism, anti-communism, and the bomb. There's Stewart, a southern sharecropper who got involved in sort of Manchurian candidate type deal. He wound up becoming dishonorably discharged, publicly reviled as a traitor, and now he believes himself to be a Confederate States of American general. The other witness is Johnny. That Johnny talks to is Trent, an African American who was one of the first students to integrate into the then segregated Southern universities. He now imagines himself as a member of the Ku Klux Klan, as you do. The final witness he needs to talk to was an atomic scientist scarred by the knowledge of the devastating power of intercontinental ballistic missiles. He has regressed to the mentality of a 6-year-old. We get hydrotherapy. We get ravenous nymphomaniacs, institutional beatdowns, several striptease segments, dream sequences, the shocks in the form of electroshock therapy, and good old-fashioned madness. So Shock Corridor actually started off as a screenplay that Fuller wrote in the late 40s called Straitjacket for Fritz Lang. But apparently Fritz Lang wanted to change the lead to a woman, so Lang's femme fatale of choice, Joan Bennett, could play the role.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of a comical B-movie mindset of around what a journalist is. It's like kind of like when people think of like journalists in movies from like the 40s and 50s and stuff. This is kind of like pretty in line with that. It's like it's like not really in line with reality, but it's definitely in line with like what people think journalists are like, biting at the next story, running around like Lois Lane, and like just subjecting themselves to ridiculous things to get a scoop. But which we're all about here on the Criterion Creeps podcast.
Scoops, hot scoops.
But I think with Fuller, that Fuller style that I kind of talked about in the last segment, it's definitely intentional and it's meant to be bombastic. So I mean, in the pursuit of truth, he winds up destroying himself. So it's melodrama town once again. So RJ, who killed Sloane in the kitchen?
I think I might have.
Oh. Well, just Johnny beat up the wrong guy.
He got the wrong guy, man, because I'm pretty sure I'm the downfall of Johnny, the journalist.
Yeah.
So by that I mean I think I like this movie more than Naked Kiss.
Me too.
But I'm also pretty just on the level with it. I think it's pretty good, but I'm not super amazed by it.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess maybe I killed Sloane. I think this it's just like a careful what you wish for kind of deal, which is fine. He's trying to I get he's commenting on certain things like PTSD and racism and the bomb and like these broken systems and the fragility of like the human psyche and stuff like that, which I think is all good. but I don't think he really nails it. And it's not like out of poor execution, because I think the movie actually does a pretty good job at showing all these things. Um, I don't know. I don't know, man. What do you what's your hot scoop?
My hot scoop. Well, I've gone in deep, not too deep.
Hmm.
So my memory of this movie is that hallway that they keep going back to time and time
Yeah.
again, with all the inmates kind of just leaning against the walls and wandering back and forth, with good reason, as action keeps coming back to that hallway time and time again. Obviously, it's a restriction of the film's budget, which again, it was
Hmm.
like it's a there was the studio called Allied Artists, which is like kind
Maybe.
of like half exists now. It's kind of like just above like Poverty Row filmmaking,
Sure.
and they just like here's like a budget, go make a movie script. And I mean, there's like guys like Sammy Fuller who kind of like they can pull that type of thing off. Because I mean, apparently like a lot of this movie was just like filmed on a rented soundstage.
Hmm.
And I think it's it's a good example of how well like budgetary constraints can still work for you. Some
Hmm.
people don't do well with it, as seen by some of the horror movies we've been watching this last month. But
Hmm.
other people can like do really well. Sometimes it's just about finding the right story too, to like kind of take advantage of your what your budget is going to be and do something believable with it. So I mean,
Right.
this is a pretty simple story at the end of the day. It's just like, all right, we need some nurse and like attendance outfits and mental patient outfits,
Hmm.
and some rooms with some like things that are
Couple,
like, here's some bathtubs.
yeah, I was gonna say a couple of bathtubs. That's the whole set.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple bathtubs, a couple beds.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess like when I was thinking about why the Samuel Fuller movies are in the Criterion Collection proper, is it kind of
Hmm.
goes back to like the influence of the Cahiers du Cinema that I brought up way back like 20 years ago when we were talking about 400 Blows, and like kind
Yeah.
of like that what the French New Wave directors of the time were kind of looking at as far as like American directors. So they were looking at like your Howard Hawks and stuff like that, or Nicholas Ray, and Samuel Fuller is another one of those directors that like they just like freaking love. They love
Hmm.
Samuel Fuller. Like all the special features like on these discs are like French TV documentaries about Samuel Fuller.
Hmm.
Because so yeah, one of the essays kind of talks to this. In Fuller, who I can totally see this in, it kind of exemplifies Americanness, I think, for like an international viewer.
Yeah.
So there's a Michael Dare essay talks about like how something like Naked Kiss, it's like kind of this like fascistic, virile, shamelessly manipulative. And like I totally can get like these movies are really much like American pulpy filmmaking. Like
Hmm.
something else that Dare writes that I've always suspected when I watch movies with subtitles and I don't know the language is Fuller's arty compositions and artificial dialogue would seem to play better in subtitles. It's sultry and passionate discourse full of innuendo. People only talk like this in movies. So like there's
Yeah.
like one of the things with the dialogue is like this dialogue has not very much to do with the real world.
Mm.
This film's like understanding of psychology is
Yeah.
superficial. Like but
Yeah.
it's like it's not about those things, but it kind of like uses these things in sort of this clunky way that I'm sure someone who's like fairly like well read or research, like who knows this knows this topic well, would just be like rolling their eyes at like, this the 60s.
So, now that you mention it, I have a degree in psychology.
Oh.
Uh, so I'm
Right.
not to sound like a pretentious asshole or anything, but so like that kind of stuff does pull me out of it a little bit, and it's not like I think I've said before, like I'm pretty good with movies, like any kind of genre or like idea they want to throw out there. I'm not the kind of guy that gets hung up on like whether it's possible or whether it's right or like whether it's accurate or not.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of nail it on the head when you say it's superficial, because there's a lot of stuff where it's like, yeah, it's like a normal man put in these situations is gonna get broke and he's gonna get like corrupted by this stuff. Like
And
I
you'll
don't think
go
he,
insane.
yeah, I don't think he gives like people enough credit, and like if like I'm not, and like that kind of stuff can happen, but I think it's got to be a lot worse than what they show, and like that might just be like a restriction. They weren't allowed to show like dudes getting fucking lobotomies and stuff like in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I feel like that movie, which came out like 10 years later, shows this stuff way better because um they don't show anything like more graphic, but they handle the content a lot more seriously, I think. Whereas like this one, it's serious too, but I think like you said, they kind of miss it. Like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it's always that weird thing because like my understanding of like electroshock therapy is that it kind of like became really vilified and maybe unfairly like over the last like 50 years. Like there just became this shift toward like the brutalism of it, and also
Hmm.
but the things that would also dismiss that it was effective in some cases. And so I'm not
Yeah.
sure because I'm not sure how much it's used nowadays. Like, I mean, we don't even have really institutions, at least like in our neck of the woods. They just don't exist anymore. They're just there's so many problems that come with things like
Hmm.
usually being state run, and no one can afford private ones. So
Hmm.
there's a real shift away from it.
Yeah, no, there's definitely practical applications for it. Like, for some reason, like, as used as like a treatment for depression, like there's something about electric shock that can like help lessen the severity of like symptoms with that.
Yeah.
But like going back to my favorite movie of the year, Dario Argento's Trauma, and if anyone's unfamiliar, go to our last episode to hear about that. The way they use shock treatment in that movie is to force amnesia on a woman, which like doesn't even make sense. So in like the thing too is like in the 60s they didn't really know what electric shock did, but they found that like in some people it helped, like from a myriad of different like diseases or illness, like afflictions or whatever. So they just tried to do it on everyone. They didn't really know what it did then, and to be honest, I don't think people still really know what it does now. Like we have a better understanding of how it works, but like I think you would be hard pressed to find someone who can like say with confidence what exactly, like what it all entails. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, that sounds fair. I mean, my whole knowledge base would come from, I don't know, reading a Wikipedia entry about it. So that sounds about right to
Well,
me.
you come to Papa, and I'll let you know the
Pop,
hard details.
Papa Psych.
Papa loaf. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were stripping, RJ, did you have to explain you couldn't be a stripper if you didn't take off all your clothes?
Yeah, I did, but I have a very specific medical reason for that. I have like four dongs, and it's too erotic.
Well, you have to let him breathe, though.
I do, but I can't do it on
Mhm.
stage because a lot of people faint from sheer seduction.
Being an undergraduate psych student, going, it's tough. You got to pay the bill
It's,
somehow.
it's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Um,
Uh,
oh, my,
ooh.
my note here, it was something about the old attempted incest gambit.
Yeah, I thought that was like, so after I watched both of these in a row last night, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
so
that's how I
Sam,
watched him too.
I was like, Sam Fuller's got this thing for preverts and sexual predators and incestuous affairs and prostitutes or whatever.
Hmm.
I was like, maybe this is what all his movies are like. Time will tell for me, but I guess you know.
Yeah, no, there's like a couple of his early. There's an Eclipse collection of his like early movies. There's like I Shot Jesse James, which is just a straight up western.
Yeah.
His next movie that's also western that's actually really good is Baron of Arizona with Vincent Price.
Oh, cool.
I think like Patton Oswalt described it as it's like a long lost episode of Blackadder, which I don't know if you've ever seen or not, but it's actually pretty well suited. It plays like it's a weird dark comedy almost, but like it's definitely more in his latter like kind of movies that like the sleaze factor comes in.
Right.
One day another Sam Fuller movie is going to come along called White Dog, which is actually from the '80s,
Yeah.
and it's about a dog who's been trained to attack black people, and like once again
Hmm.
it's Sam Fuller who's like I'm going to confront the issues. I don't know if you've
Right.
ever like seen any like video or like film of him talking about his stuff, and he is just like the cigar chomping Jewish filmmaker. Like he's just
Hmm.
like he's no qualms about talking about stuff straight. Yeah, he's actually also in. There's the Return to Salem's Lot TV movie that.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, he makes an appearance in that as
As Rob Lowe.
as a confused vampire hunter, I believe. Yeah.
Really? Is
Yeah.
he like?
He's
Does he
in
play
it.
himself?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't. He's not much of an actor, but he just like he plays like his this character of himself, I guess. But
Weird.
but he's in the story as like, I don't know what the name of the character was, but yeah, it's just like him snarling about, chomping his cigars, and
Right.
complaining about, I don't know, the weather.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, that's
So
all right.
yeah, so I've got two complaints about the presentation of this particular movie because of the old
Sure.
DVD I have. One is that the DVD, I didn't realize until I took it off the shelf, was it's non-anamorphic, which
Mm-hmm.
means that when you're watching it on HD television, it's like you're watching a postage stamp, which kind of stinks. Because The Naked Kiss I thought looked actually quite nice.
Yep.
And Shock Corridor I think actually is the better looking movie. I
Mm-hmm.
think. Because it's actually, I think if I got my notes right, because now it's showing that I'm not very organized.
God damn it, Jared! You're
Oh.
blowing the show again.
Blowing it.
You're blowing it.
Damn, I don't know where I wrote that. But anyway, there's the guy who shot this. It's Stanley Cortez, who also shot crap like The Magnificent Ambersons and The Night of the Hunter.
Oh yeah, people love the Night of the Hunter.
They do. And so yeah, this movie looks like really nice, even though I couldn't really fully enjoy it because we were watching it in SD. There's definitely parts of the voiceover narration where it sounds like it's been recorded in a tin can, and like you really have to turn up the volume to like catch any of it. And I don't know if that was greatly improved with the Blu-ray. It might not have been. The one movie I'm not looking forward to when we get to it, and I think that's like disc 200, and that's Honeymoon Killers. That movie has some really abhorrent sound recording because it's like a late 60s or like I think it's 1970 when it was released, but it's like crap sound because they were using really crappy equipment, and this movie might suffer from that just because of that. And like actually, like the one thing I was reading about with this movie is people kind of complaining about like sort of the cheapness of the production of the movie and like weird like jump cuts and stuff like that. But like honestly, like it seemed pretty invisible to me. Like it didn't stand out at all.
Yeah, nothing like that bothered me at all.
No.
Like I'm not even gonna lie. The only reason I knew it had those non-anamorphic things was because you said it. Like I would have just watched it and been like, yeah, it's an old movie, man. That's it. It's an old ass movie. It's got things on there. Like nothing like that took me out of it at all. So
Well, that's good.
I think that's people who say that are just petty.
Yes, there's Tom Petty's out there.
Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hydroptherapy looks nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what? Like, it's like I was saying, it seems like he's trying to like make a comment about like broken like a broken mental asylum systems, but everything there looks pretty good. Like they're treated pretty well.
I don't really get the sense that he was really against the system itself. Maybe he's against like systems in itself, like the idea of systems and like how like the orderlies were in on this, but there's no way of this information coming out because like this is one of the weird things about this movie.
Okay.
That when I started like writing the synopsis, I'm like, wait, how did the police not figure this case out? Like,
yeah,
like because it's like I guess like the idea is that like the only witnesses are like insane people and can't be trusted, and they're not. You have to spend enough time with these people to like get the answers, and so the police just hit a roadblock and then they drop the case, and so now it's up to this journalist to like go that extra step, and like and break the case. Because so there's like the one thing in the movie that like comes up all three times when he's talking to the witnesses is that he's talking to the witnesses and then they have these moments of clarity and they're completely normal again. And then there's this idea that it's only because he kept asking questions that they then like reverted back. And I'm not sure how those scenes are supposed to play. Like this idea that he's like they were actually cured and then because he kept pushing for his own agenda that they've gone insane again. But I'm like, well, no, it would have taken nothing for these people to go back. Yep. Like, so I'm not sure like how that's supposed to be read. What do you think about that?
I suggest that you and any listener out there goes to the psych ward of a hospital and just ask any of the patients a certain question over and over and over again and see how they respond to it.
Like, well, yeah, you just ask them who killed Sloane in the kitchen.
Who killed Sloane? Who killed Sloane? Who killed Sloane? I think it would have been better if this one pulled a Shutter Island and the whole time he was just a banana.
Oh,
and,
Johnny.
Johnny.
It all takes place in Johnny's head.
Yeah. Which is kind of how it ends up, I guess. But maybe it would have been nice, or maybe it would have worked better if it was that the whole time.
Have I ever told? I don't know if I've ever actually told you about. You know the movie Identity with John Cusack?
Oh yeah.
So I hate that movie a lot. That movie is total garbage. So, because spoilers, it all takes place in the fat guy's head. But speaking of fat guys, I think that this might be the fattest guy we've seen in a movie in the form of Pagliacci, played by
Yeah.
Larry Tucker.
Yeah, two things just to interrupt. I also dislike Identity because the idea of like split personalities has long been like debunked. Like that's not really how stuff works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I guess maybe I am the kind of guy that gets held up on that shit. I don't know. Whatever. M. Night Shyamalan has a split personalities movie coming out soon, so you be the judge. But
Oh.
Yep.
What's that called?
Split.
Oh.
I could have asked you, being like, give me a guess on what you think this movie's called, and you probably would. You had a 9 out of 10 chance of guessing it.
Jesus.
Anyways, I also really liked Pagliacci. There's a scene where he just takes bread off of people's plates, and I thought that was super cool. He's got to eat. I also liked he had genuine concern for the other patients.
Mm-hmm.
He goes up to the dude and offers him a lot of gum, and he's like, it's good for you. It's good for you. It'll help you sleep.
Yeah.
So I thought he was a legitimately good dude, and he got some good pipes. And he might have been the fattest bastard we've seen so far, but at least he was a lovable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had some nice serious gawk going on.
He certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
He certainly did. And while we're talking about patience, I don't know how familiar you are with the Chappelle Show, the early 2000 Dave Chappelle comedy.
I remember the show. I don't remember I watched it when it came out, and I think we were downloading them off the internet way back when because they weren't out on disc. But
don't
go on. Go on.
I was gonna say the second patient, the Klan member. He just reminded me of Clayton Bigsby from Chappelle Show.
Yeah.
And there's a thing in that show that I love where it's like an outtake, and he's like, I hate N-words, but I love skateboards. And then Dave Chappelle skateboards down the street.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. That's like I think that might be my favorite scene in the entirety of the Chappelle Show, and it's like an outtake from that episode. But as soon as I saw that guy and he was talking about the Ku Klux Klan, I was like, oh my God, it's Clayton Bigsby.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, all the there's no real new takes on any of that type of stuff that they're doing, which is kind of weird. Maybe it was like that in 1963. It's hard for me to tell. I think it's fine. I love that type of brash approach to metaphors, I guess, and just be like, all right, this guy is literally a black man who now thinks he's a Ku Klux Klan member because he was driven to it by the system. And then this other guy's like, this guy's been driven to think that he's a traitor in America, which means he's from the South, and because of communism and rabid anti-communism. And the other guy, and the bomb. There's always the bomb, right?
The bomb,
which people should be terrified of. The bomb's no good.
Some people call me the bomb.
Yeah, you are the bomb.
And I'm no good.
See here some notes here. Dance therapy. Dance therapy seemed fun.
I would be a big advocate of dance therapy. I would also be an advocate of rabid sex therapy, which I think he gets subjected to at one point.
My favorite quote of this movie: "Nymphos."
Nymphos. That part is awesome.
That part is ridiculous, but awesome.
I have two. Let me just interrupt you for a second. I have two quotes that I also thought were fun. One was at the very start. He describes his situation as a sexual powder keg. I'm going to start using that in the workplace and see how it goes. And then my favorite quote, possibly my favorite quote of any Criterion movie so far. The psychiatrist is talking about how he may have this incestuous fantasies were instilled in him as a young teenager, and he says puberty, but he says puberty. And I think it is fucking hilarious that he's like, they may have been instilled in puberty. And I heard that, and I think I shot up in my chair. I was like, what? I was like, did he say puberty? So that was fucking hilarious.
So that nympho scene though is just the weirdest thing. It's they're sex zombies. It is something right out of a Cronenberg Shivers, where they just maul him, and then the rest of the movie is bandaged up from this horrific nympho attack.
Nymphos.
Yeah, I don't know how many of those we're going to see in the Criterion Collection, but
not nearly enough.
Well, maybe Shivers will come out from them, and then we'll all rejoice.
Shivers in the Criterion Collection?
Could happen. It hasn't happened yet, but
they do like Davey though.
No one's put it on Blu-ray in North America.
Hmm.
It's coming though.
Well,
It's got to be. Actually, then there's also the colored stock footage use. What did you think of that?
I thought I saw that and I was like, hey, why isn't this whole movie in color?
Because
Uh,
color film is expensive. That
yeah.
is, I think that's why.
No, I thought that was actually one thing. Like, I thought the use of like the color stock for these guys' memories or whatever, and then also the way they use music to like show thought, I guess. Like, I kind of like that, but I feel like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe in 1960, I would have been like, "Fuck yeah, this the coolest thing I ever saw."
Far out,
So,
man.
far out, man, belly dancers and music and
I
stuff.
I dig.
I dig, dog.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a popular one.
dog.
Also, okay. So I think the best scene in the movie though is the when the hallway turns into a storm, and you just have like
Yep.
that downpour scene. That scene is pretty magnificent. That
Yeah,
that is
that's awesome.
pretty wicked. And it's like
Hmm.
because like obviously it's not really happening, and it's in his head,
Hmm.
and the whole payoff of that where he's just still sitting there. But it's just like dramatically, it's like super, just
Hmm.
like like really well done.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, no. So like overall, like I do like this movie.
Hmm.
It's better than The Naked Kiss.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's not like I don't know if I'd be like. It's been years. Like so, when I bought this on DVD, like this is like gotta be one of the first first 12 or so Criterions I bought just because of the subject matter, and it sounded like good and trashy.
Because you love nymphos.
And I love me some nymphos. So I bought
Hmm.
it, but like, I only watched it the one time, and I hadn't gone back to watch it since till just this week. And
Right.
I mean, it's good, but
Hmm.
it's not like not one of the most like interesting statements, I guess, on even the subject matter. I guess like if you're like, just
Right.
like you're thinking about like movies set in like mental institutions. I mean, you've already brought it up, but yeah, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is kind of the pinnacle of that for me still,
Hmm.
because Milos
That.
Forman's the man.
Hmm. I'd say that or Stuart Little. That's a pretty good depiction of mental health as well.
I think that movie was also co-written or something like that by M. Night Shyamalan.
No, no, that movie was written by a group of very good people. Yeah. So hey, I have one last thing to say.
Yeah,
That I could be way off, and I'm not gonna check the validity of my statement, but I'm just gonna say it blindly. I think I uncovered maybe a secret link between these two movies, other than that they were Sam Fuller movies.
yeah.
I believe there is a bust, like a statue, like a bronze bust of maybe Beethoven, and I think it's in both of these movies. Did you notice this at all?
No.
In Naked Kiss, I think it is in that Grant guy's house because there's a lot of music in there, and there's like Moonlight Sonata is playing all the time.
Yeah.
They even mention Beethoven by name, and I think it's in the scene. I might this one I don't remember as well, but I think it's in the scene after she kills him, and it's showing stills of the house. I think it shows his bust there, but it might also have been when they have the little party. But in Shock Corridor, it is in the office when they're like near the start when they're setting up that the guy is going to go to the asylum. The bust is in that scene too.
Oh,
I think it's a Beethoven bust. I Googled it and there was nothing on there. So I think I got the hot scoop on this.
whoa. New take.
But maybe if anyone cares, they'll go look at it and maybe I'll be way off.
Yeah.
But if I'm not, maybe we have a record now that I'm the first person ever to make this connection.
Oh, and of course we'd be remiss to not acknowledge the one little bit of trivia where I think the theater marquee shows The Naked Kiss is playing in the town in
Yep.
yeah, the Naked
No,
the
Shock
Shock
Corridor.
Corridor. Yes, Shock Corridor and Naked Kiss. Yeah,
Yep.
that little wink.
That little wink right before the disabled children banner,
So
which is apparently your favorite.
yeah. It makes me chuckle because it's like what horrors that could have been a fashion show. I've seen too many Harmony Korine films. That's why.
Oh,
Oh. I
oh,
love me some Harmony Korine. So that brings us to a little bit of business of who hates these films. So who hates The Naked Kiss? Cindy T hates this movie. Half a star. I don't understand why The Naked Kiss is revered. The story is dumb and overly melodramatic, and the acting is bad. Pulp cinema at its worst. I hated it. She actually said she hated it.
She hated it. Well, good for you, girl.
Dave Vonderheer gave it 2 stars. There's a charming slapdash and unrehearsed feel that comes with good low-budget B-movies, independent cinema, and then there's handing in a short story with no punctuation and half the words misspelled. The Naked Kiss felt a lot more like the second one. It's unnecessary sloppiness that I can't overlook.
Hey, Jarrett.
Yeah.
I think you're unnecessarily sloppy.
Jesus. That's sick. Sick burn.
I got you, you fucker.
Who hates Shock Corridor? Kevin McCormick hates it, maybe.
Ooh.
He rewatched it and he gave it 2 stars. Obviously, Sam Fuller is one of the all-time greats, but this schlocky artifact, but this schlocky artifact from the nightmarish compulsory ice baths and Thorazine era of psychiatry might as well be marketed as science fiction for all the relation it has to real life. Starts with the wrong-headed premise that mental patients are victims of injustice who are somehow concoct psychotic delusions to distance themselves from reality. Really, Sam?
Really?
Add a few dumb hallucinatory process shots and some wacky monologues from its cast of cartoonish, gimmicky, kooky loons. Put in some archaic psychiatric jargon for the actors to struggle with. The doctors don't come out looking too professional. And tie it all together with a creaky plot about a reporter lusting for a Pulitzer, a nonsensical murder mystery, and a high-security inpatient psych ward where the patients are somehow able to roam around at will, find themselves in unguarded areas full of sharp objects, nymphomaniacs, or other lethal traps, and the budget somehow doesn't allow for more than 2 guards working alternating 12-hour shifts. Shock Corridor is half a century old and feels about as fresh as Birth of a Nation, with its self-righteous, quote-unquote, enlightened ideas, arguing in favor of non-issues having some vague connection to a topic.
Sick burn.
So many sick burns. Mr. Fuller knows next to nothing about. That said, it's immensely entertaining. Gather any psychology majors or MDs you might know, break out the sangria, and have a drink every time someone stumbles over ancient, disused neurological jargon. Come the fuck on. The movie's like from the 1960s. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't
unfair.
Every time a scene ends with hysterical overacting by a bad actor in a straitjacket, every time a patient somehow gains access to some ridiculously dangerous environment, every instance of shocking Archie bunkerisms, and every time a raving lunatic has some bullshit moment of clarity just to advance the resolution of this idiotic murder plot, I usually end up passing out around the 20-minute mark.
Ay, caramba. See, that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying. I don't want to like fall down the hole. I don't want to fall down. It's like, yeah, okay, you can watch a movie from the 20s with like, I don't know, fucking Nosferatu in it and be like, oh, people were so fucking dumb for believing this. It's like, there's no way it's true now. It's like, well, yeah, because they didn't fucking know that. Like we were saying earlier, like, I know a lot of the things they were doing, like why they don't work anymore. But it's like, yeah, I'm not mad that they used it either. That's what they fucking thought. I just thought like the interpretation of certain things was a little off.
Sure.
So that lady sucks. And I like how she's like rags on it so much. And it's like, grab your, or that guy sucks. He's like, grab your sangria. It's like, what's he got against sangria now?
So sassy. People are so sassy when they can post shit online. Kevin.
I think sangria is a delightful, refreshing drink.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why you have to drink to enjoy watching movies. I think you might have a drinking problem. Yeah. I mean, that's something you also know about.
I was going to say, what if you have to drink to enjoy life? Is that a problem, or is that just being super cool? Yep. Well, I guess that's our review of
Sam Fuller.
I was going to try to make a funny joke, but all I can think of is Stuart Little for some reason.
And I don't know. M. Night Shyamalan definitely wrote that screenplay.
He might have, but there would have been a twist though, like a bigger twist.
Well, that was that was when he was still like just a lowly serf trying to get work, and then Sixth Sense happened.
Yeah, Sixth Sense is whatever. I mean, the Signs is where the money is.
Money.
Signs and Unbreakable. Unbreakable, probably one of the best superhero movies ever, but Signs, ooh baby, it's got 2 of my favorite things in there.
What are your 2 favorite things?
Fucking Mel Gibson and Aliens. What are you nuts?
Go. Hey, people might not know that.
Well,
they might not have been paying attention for the last 15 episodes.
I suggest you go back and make a detailed repertoire. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Very
I was gonna say
well.
I was gonna make another funny joke, but again, Stuart Little.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, tune back in to listen to us continue not talking about anything we know about.